Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I See What You're Saying, the Disciplined Listening Podcast. I'm Michael Reddington, and today it is my pleasure to introduce our next guest, Scott Wozniak. Scott is the CEO of Swoz Consulting, where he and his team work with their partner organizations to help upgrade their organizations, implement new systems, and make their brands legendary. Speaking of making legendary brands, that's the name of his most recent book, Make Your Brand Legendary. In addition to running his own consulting company and being an author, he also is the host of not one, but 3 different podcasts. He's a highly sought after speaker. He's a former executive and program leader within Chick-fil-A, and so much more. And I'm really thankful that he took the time to join us for this conversation to share so many thoughts and so many examples on the importance of fundamentals in implementing systems, on what it takes to create raving fans and celebrate customers, and how we can shift our default mode in order to get more from ourselves, our families, our teams, and our businesses. So many great ideas, so many great stories in one conversation. I'm really excited to share them all with you. Before we get started, I want to take a moment, as always, to thank our sponsors. First, we have HumanTel. For anyone that's ever thought about developing the skill set of accurately identifying in real time what people are likely thinking and feeling by recognizing shifting emotions through facial expressions and body language, I highly recommend you head over to humantel.com and enter the code INQUASIVE25 for 25% off all of their self-paced online best-in-class training. I say it every time. I've done it myself. I highly vouch for it. I recommend it for everybody over at humantel.com. For the professional interviewers, please check out the International Association of Interviewers at certifiedinterviewer.com. That's where you can learn more about all of their online resources and training, their in-person training events, networking events, resources, so much. Qualifications. What's it take to be a member? What are the benefits at the individual and team level? And that's where you can also learn more about the Certified Forensic Interviewer designation. Do you qualify? What does it take to sit through the exam and earn the designation? And what can that designation do for you in your career now and in the future as you work to achieve your goals? And we have Inquasive as well. Please head over to inquasive.com, where you can learn more about the customized educational engagements our clients ask us to facilitate for their leadership teams, sales teams, HR teams, and beyond, to teach them how to obtain everyday confessions by encouraging people to save face and align their self-image with sharing sensitive information. All that and more over at inquasive.com. Thank you all for continuing to join us and listening into these conversations with us. We appreciate you being here. And now, without further ado, I introduce to you Scott Wozniak. Good morning, Scott. It is so great to see you. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, Michael, been looking forward to this, man. This will be fun.
Awesome. Thank you. So I read your book, Make Your Brand Legendary, which is something all organizations can benefit from. And if we're being honest, good or bad, lots of people can benefit from in our days of individual branding focus as well. Took a lot from it. Really looking forward to diving into it. We met when I saw you speak down in Florida last year, which was really the genesis for the idea. So lots of things that I'd love to talk to you about today. But there was one thing when I was reading your book that just jumped off the page, caught me, and I would love to start here. And if I don't say it correctly, dial it in for me. But if I recall, I believe the quote was something along the lines of, you can't force people to do what you want, but you can cause them to grow in the direction you would like them to. And I think that is a fascinating line. And I would love for you to kick this off by explaining that in greater detail for us, please.
Yeah. And it's a big idea that's shaped a lot of my life and leadership and the brands. And honestly, my family, huge thought here, because sometimes the assumption or the idea behind all this, if I just did all the right things, right? If I could do this and do this, I could make this happen in my life. And I'm trying to force it to go down this path. And if you try too hard with people, you'll get frustrated. They'll get frustrated. It gets difficult. Well, then I've been there, and a lot of folks get to that frustration point, and then it's not working the way they think, and they can't force the outcomes. And so then they quit. They're like, screw it, right? I can't You can't make anybody do anything. So why try? And like, it doesn't matter. And so then you just like bail on the whole thing and pendulum swing the other way. But there is this beautiful balance in the middle where you realize, okay, I cannot force anybody. Any individual can decide what they want to do and figure it out. And we all have that individual choice that drives stuff. But there are patterns, desires, drives, fundamental needs. I mean, humans are natural, beings that have. So the metaphor I love that I think unlocks this for folks is gardening. Now, like growing a garden in the backyard with, fruitful plants and all this cool stuff. You cannot make a plant grow in exactly the shape you want. Exactly. I mean, you could try and do all this like weird bending and, strap it to wood and try to get it to bend the shape. And it really is going to frustrate you. No plant's ever going to be precisely what you want. But that doesn't mean you're like, screw it. I mean, you can't grow anything, right? Just random stuff grows. No, you can cultivate the environment, cultivate the soil. There are nutrients all the plants need. And if you put more of the good stuff in, guess what? You get more. There are things that cause problems, and you can remove those, from pests to putting up fences to keep, rabbits from coming in and eating everything. You can put the plants just the right distance apart for each other, make sure they get enough sunlight or don't, the right season of the year. And there's quite a bit of strategy that you can fairly predictably. While I can't tell you what any individual plant will do, I can tell you that the group of plants, the garden, will produce more or less of this kind of thing in a semi-predictable way. Again, I can't tell you, the harvest will be, September 17th, but I can say it's September. It'll be the middle of September, somewhere in that window is when they're going to be ready. And so just because you can't force precision and make 100% of people do exactly what you want doesn't mean you're left helpless. There are some fundamentals that when you think about customers, organizations, frankly, any relationship in your life, you can set the environment and strongly encourage the things that are good and strongly discourage the things that are not. And there's always stubborn individual. I mean, I've been that guy, right? We're like, it was all lined up. And for whatever reason, I was in a weird space and I just said, no, I'm not doing it. And I backed out. But on the other hand, I listen, I do this to myself. Let me give you a totally non-fancy version that'll hopefully make sense to people. Like, this isn't crazy manipulation. When I was trying to lose weight, I've lived this vividly the last few months, actually. So I got way out of shape at one point in my life, and I had to try to get back into shape. And one of the number one insights was, oh man, I need to change where the food is laying around me. And so we always had snacks out on the counter because that's what I wanted, including one of my favorites are mint M&Ms. And I would just have a little bowl of them out in the kitchen. And, you just grab one or two as you walk by. I mean, it's no big deal, right? Like it doesn't even count, right? I mean, they're so small. You don't even have to, if you have a food tracking app, I was like, I don't even need to add them. Of course, by the end of the day, I'd empty that bowl and have to refill it. So one or two at a time, somehow it's magic, Michael. This is maybe, this is not the lesson, right? Hey, you could eat M&Ms all day and they never count. Unfortunately,
I wish we could make that true. Can we force that to be true?
Yeah. When we make that happen, you and I go make $1 trillion off of like calorie-free M&Ms. It'll be awesome. So honestly, the biggest thing I did was put the bowl away and be like, okay, listen, you can still buy them, but you have to keep them in the bag, put them in a drawer, put them behind a closed cabinet. So I have to, just that tiny bit of extra step, man, I ate tons less M&Ms. And by the way, what's vivid about that is for Christmas, my wife always puts out over the holiday season for 1 month, she puts the bowls back all around the house and makes a fun deal out of it. And I always gain weight every Christmas. So like, I'm susceptible to this. So that little principle, now you start thinking, okay, where does that work for my team? Where does that work for my customers? Where does that work for my individual self-management? And you actually start realizing we have a lot of options where I might still every now and then go grab M&Ms, but the frequency changes dramatically. I can shift my default mode one way or the other. Now, let me give you one operational business example for folks who are thinking about it. The single biggest thing you can do if you want to get consistent at a behavior that is inconsistent, that's one of the core ideas of excellence we talk about in the book, is moving from this inconsistent, sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, the power of getting consistent. Well, one of the more powerful things you can do is measure it and put the score up on a regular basis, frequent basis. Just put the number up. Again, I haven't changed anything else. We're just going to put a number up and put it on, called creating a scoreboard and sharing the score. And man, humans love to keep score. I mean, it's like this deep wiring in us. You put a scoreboard up and we chase that number. We are motivated by it. You don't have to like get in their face and lecture them. You don't have to punish. Now, those are other options you can consider in some scenarios, but you might not have to if you put a score on the table. And you're like, oh, there it is. There it is. Go chase the score. I give you a fun example on scorekeeping and the power of it. So I used to be a senior leader at Chick-fil-A. Part of my background before, part of how I got into all this, like raving fans, engines, and all this cool stuff is how do you build these systems? And so during my time there, one of my colleagues got this really cool idea, and we're like, that's crazy. Let's give it a shot. So in the Atlanta area, we gathered a bunch of the frontline team members on a Sunday. Chick-fil-A's closed on Sunday, so they're off, and we're like, hey, okay, we got a special opportunity for you guys. You're some of the best and brightest from our local area stores, so we want you to come in and we're going to pay you to go bowling. And they're like, what? And we're like, bonus for you. And so bring in all these hourly team members, high school kids, college kids, middle-aged folks, good range. We're like, come on over to this bowling alley. And so we get a bunch of them. They show up and they're like, oh, this is awesome. And we're paying them their normal hourly rate to come bowl. Well, they get there and they're putting on their shoes and picking out a ball. And they're like, oh, our lanes are over on the end. And we reserved the far lanes. And we had some fun with it. We're like, let's see how powerful a score is. Because when they get there, they arrived and found out that the screens we put paper over them so you can't see the screens. And we don't even want you to see the pins. We got like PVC pipe and like a curtain, like a bed sheet. So it's hanging in front of the pins. So the ball could easily roll through, but you can't see what's happening back there. And so we're like, we already logged in the system. So Michael, you're first, right? Like, here we go, let's bowl. And then they're like picking up the ball, throwing it down the lane and picking up the ball. And like, oh, I think it's the next person's turn. And they're just taking turns bowling. And honestly, back an hour into it, there's one of the brave souls is like, hey, dude, hey, how long did we have to do this again? Like, and we're like, oh, it's bonus, man. You don't have to stay. He's like, yeah, I got a place to go, man. I love this. Thanks, guys. But I think I'm gonna head out. And everyone else like, wait, we can go. We don't have to stay. And they're like, yeah, you guys can go if you want. So they're taking off their shoes and putting their stuff away. And of course, while they start doing that, we go down the lane and pick up PVC pipe and we take the paper off the screen. And what does everybody do? Well, man, they crowd around that screen, right? Exactly. Like, oh, check it out. They're like, dude, you're killing me. And like, no way, man. I thought I was doing better. And so the same brave guy is like, wait, can I throw one more? And we're like, yeah, you want to go? So throw another one. They all pile back in, shoes on. They're like, can we keep playing? Like, yeah. Played for 2 more hours, man. I mean, listen, the same physical activity, the same environment, the same stinky shoes, their friends. I mean, like, everything is the same. The only thing we did was remove the score. And there's a couple of lessons we could take. The first is like, okay, let's be honest. Bowling is manual labor, right? I mean, like, think about this. You're picking up a heavy object, you shove it down a chute, they put it right back to you. Like, you don't even make progress, right? Like, they reset everything and you just keep doing when you take a score out of it, bowling is so boring that you literally can't pay people to do it very long. They're like, this is terrible activity. And then you take this really boring activity and all you do is throw a score on top of it. And we make competitions, leagues, professional championships. People will watch it for entertainment. It's the same activity. It's just a score makes it entertainment and exciting and engaging. And no score means you have to pay me. And honestly, an hour into it, I'm not sure you're paying me enough. This is how powerful scorekeeping is. And unfortunately, most people are running their business or their personal life like a bowler without a score. They're like, I mean, I'm doing an activity and, maybe once a year I'll check and see how it's going. And you wonder why you don't care and you're not motivated. Like, this is a fundamental human drive. Now, if you put a score on me, I'll give you back to the personal example. So getting out of shape, one of the number one lessons, I would lose and gain and classic weight loss problems. And the number one, finally, someone gave me this advice. So like, listen, the number one behavior of people who keep the weight off, this is not how you lose weight. This is how you keep it off, is you weigh yourself daily. Every day you get on the scale. I mean, literally every day, just get on the scale. And so eventually I picked up that practice and it makes a huge difference. I got on the scale this morning. I gained some weight this weekend. My kids were in a school play. We celebrated. It was desserts and late night snacks, and it was awesome. And I watched myself every day game. I mean, the day after Thanksgiving, man, that's not a fun day for Americans. We eat a ridiculous amount. Get on the dadgum scale. And so I might, just because I'm on a scale doesn't mean I didn't decide to splurge this weekend and gain some weight. But at least I knew what I was doing, and that constant little bit of reminders, like, all right, I mean, I'm doing this on purpose. You can't force me to never eat bad food because I'm getting on a scale, but that natural drive does keep pulling me back to like, so today my plan is to be much healthier. And I honestly told my wife, like, that dinner plan we talked about, we're not doing that for dinner. I can't do that another day. Like, we're gonna come up with a healthier option. And so it creates a natural gravitational pull toward the excellence I want. That is what we can do for ourselves, for our companies. And again, one of the options, one part of the book is you want to get operationally excellent. Well, dang, you better have a score, and you just put that score up on a regular basis. And instead of the boss being a punk that's driving everybody, we're all like reacting to this number saying, hey, what do you think about the number? I don't like it either. Let's talk about what we're going to do. Or, dude, we're killing it. We should do more of that. It's not a jerk move to make. It's actually kind of fun. I'll finish this little rant with this. There's a great book on this. And I was just with a company 3-4 days ago, one of my client companies who runs their whole company with this same approach. We were talking about their excellence, but the book that we talked about with them is called The Great Game of Business. Guy by Jack Stack wrote it. Now, big manufacturing company. Sounds like you know this one.
Yeah.
So good, right?
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. And so, like, literally though, you just put scores up. Every team knows their score, knows how that score ties to overall profitability. They all get bonuses. So it's like, we're going to win together. And they literally feel like we're playing a big game. And so the company we were with, we're talking about their scoreboard, and all around the office was the little monitors popping up the 3 big numbers for that week. And they're like, 1 is green, 2 are yellow. They was on Thursday. And they're like, dude, it's going to be interesting to see because we know the team based on how this game plays for us. Everybody is talking to each other. How do we get those yellows to green? Because our big bonus comes if we can hit the weekly number. And they're all like pumped and excited to see if we can chase it this week. We're so close. Let's see if we can get it. So it's you can't force every individual to sit over their shoulder and crack a whip. But if you put a score up and you let people react to it, talk about it, give them some fun rewards when they hit it, dude, that'll make most of the folks in your garden, so to speak, start growing really well.
It will, and it will start to weed out the ones that won't, because they won't fit in. They won't be a part of it. Honestly, they won't enjoy it. So a lot of them will self-select out. Yes. And the ones that aren't self-selecting out now will be moved out because there's objective data to make that decision on. So my wife's a chief human resources officer. And if she had a nickel for every time somebody went to her and said, I need to get rid of Johnny, well, why? Well, because we'd be having this conversation on my island right now. It happens dozens of times a day. But now, like the other piece, if they don't self-select out, you have the chance to move them up because now you're elevating the standards as you go.
Yeah, it's so good. Exactly. If they don't want to play the game, so to speak, then they'll find out. We'll find out. And it moves a lot of this out of this, like, well, you're just a jerk and you don't like me. Like, no, dude, everybody can see that we're hitting numbers you're not wanting to hit. Like, either get on, go. And I'll say this, because I wish I had a nickel for all those conversations as well. But I will say, in my many, many years of helping leaders make that shift, it's been delightfully surprising to me. I can never quite predict who's going to decide, oh, we're playing this game. There's on average 20% of the folks that are just not playing. You get serious with them, you put numbers, they see the reality. About 20% of them will say, dude, I'm in. Like, that's the game. And they'll totally change their approach and their behavior, and they'll become some of your best players. And it's sometimes not the ones I think. It's like, dude, he'll never get it. Like, that guy's the least motivated. He's the biggest jerk on the team, or whatever the problem is. And sometimes the ones you're like, oh, she's right on the edge. She'll be fine. She won't kick in. But so I can never predict who it is. Sadly, most of them, they do end up stepping out, but don't assume. I mean, that might be an encouraging note here is, again, sometimes it's a lot more. I'm talking about decades of doing this. In anecdotal self-measurements, it's about 20% of the time people surprise you. This is why you can't force them. Like, give them a shot. You never know. Some of the best people on the companies I've worked with occasionally started as some of the more difficult ones. When you finally got them clarity on what winning looks like, then once in a while they're like, dude, I actually do want to win. And they dive in and I love it. So give them a shot. My lawyer would like me to tell you to follow your wife will be proud. All the HR documentation and paperwork, right? Don't just summarily fire people.
Yeah, we're not here to recommend policies and procedures, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
If I've had,
but I
a
will
nickel
say,
for every time
don't tolerate it either. Like, don't suddenly fire people like a jerk. Follow procedures, but also follow procedures and make sure that you actually hold them to a standard. Because this is a mistake I made. So I don't know if this is any other leaders, but it'll help. Maybe one or two folks here. Maybe this is for you. I wanted great relationships. I wanted culture. I'm a relationship wired guy. Like, no, I'm competitive. I want to win. But in my early days of leadership, I'm like, I mean, he's a good guy, and I'll give him some. I don't want to be a jerk. Well, and I avoided the hard conversation. Now, partly, let's be clear. I was saying I was doing it for his behalf. Mostly it was me. I didn't want to have a jerk, have him mad at me, right? I liked him liking me. So I was trying to do it to make everything happy and feel good for me. Well, here's the problem. They know they're not performing. Like, really, unless they're total newbies, like just started the job and have no idea. They know, they can tell, you can tell. And at some point, everybody realizes you're just not holding them accountable. And then they lose respect for you. And then, ironically, I let performance slip because I wanted to keep happy relationships and not have an unpleasant conversation. And I ended up in an unhappy relationship because they didn't have respect for me anyway. And I got the worst of both worlds. If you want great relationships, yeah, sometimes in the short run, you got to do stuff that's tough because that's what earns the respect. I mean, my best bosses have been people who occasionally pull me aside and be like, Scott, what's up? You and I both know that this isn't your best. Like, can we talk about what's going on and what do we need to do to get your best? Because, yeah, you're capable of a lot more than this. You're mailing it in, buddy. What's going on? And so those were not fun, but honestly, those were some of the best bosses I ever had that called me up to who I really could capably be. And so, yeah, it's ironic.
It is. And I'm probably speaking the same language a bit, where I truly feel like if feedback doesn't hurt a little bit, then it's not helpful enough. Like, if people are giving me feedback and it just makes me feel better, or if I immediately dismiss it, which means I'm not listening to it, then it's not helping. But if I feel offended or if I feel defensive and then have enough self-control to go, wait a minute, what are the odds there's something valuable in here, and think it through? Maybe it's not right now. Maybe it's a day later, whatever. Yeah. But that's the feedback that really helps. When it actually hurts a little bit, that's when we know it's going to have the impact.
Yeah, I wish that wasn't true, man. I can't argue. I have benefited from a lot of stinging feedback.
Yeah.
And right, I think you just made a comment. I'll drill into it because I loved it. Maybe it's not now. Maybe I'll say sometimes my insecurity or my feelings are hurt. I'll want to reject feedback because part of it is invalid, right? Mm-hmm. And like, oh, they didn't understand that part, or they exaggerated that ridiculously, or like. And so that's a good defense mechanism, is like, dude, he was so ridiculous. Like, and then I'll have to listen to one word of it. I think one of the most advanced life skills, one of the marks of like real senior maturity, is the ability to filter through feedback and be like, well, actually invalid, exaggerated, but underneath that exaggeration and that false point, like there were two nuggets that actually were useful to me. And so maybe they ranted for 20 minutes on me and I only got 1 minute of useful feedback, but there was something in there. And the ability to filter that stuff out, not take the junk and be like, I really am a terrible human who has no redeeming value. Like, no, okay, you're not like a total waste of a human being, and you're not perfect. Like there's this ability to do that. That has taken me a long, long time. I still don't get it perfectly. There's occasionally my wife could testify. There's still moments where I'm like, nothing you said has value. I'm working on it. But more and more, I'm able to be like, okay, even though you went over the top, I can still draw a lesson from that. So yeah, it's the all or nothing. It kind of comes back to our first point, right? This pendulum swing of like, you either make it all or let's quit. I think being able to live in the tension of like some of this works and some doesn't, and I'm gonna take the value I can out of it. Man, that makes a huge difference. So yeah, take the feedback, even the stinging one, even if you're like, that part was bad, but the second part was good. That's some of the best feedback I get is from people who, well, I'll put it this way. If I'm waiting for people to give me feedback in a mature, calm, precise way, then I'm not going to get a lot of good feedback in my life.
You're going to get old standing right there.
That's exactly right. Like that's not realistic. People get upset and they just vomit ideas. And you can't wait for it to be perfect. You've got to learn how to take the raw, refine it down to something useful on your own. That's how you grow fast.
I couldn't agree more. And I don't know if it's I don't want to use the cop out of generational thing because that's not right. I was just thinking about how I was raised. And I know you write in your book about different like sports examples and stuff. I feel like we're close to the same age. We're probably towards the end of a time where it was okay for coaches to grab you by the face mask, spit in your face, and call you names. And it didn't mean that they were getting arrested after practice. Now, there has to be limits everywhere. I'm not advocating child abuse, you don't get me wrong. But that kind of like developing thick skin and realizing that, okay, my coach is a jerk and he didn't see the whole play and he's yelling at me based on a bunch of assumptions that he doesn't know. But I did whiff on that tackle because I had my head down and stuck my arm out. So if I just take that piece of it and ignore the rest, he's going to forget about it in 2 seconds when he yells at the next kid anyway.
Exactly.
And I will make a better tackle next time. And I think all of this kind of revolves around another really interesting point that you make in the book over and over and over again. And I can hear examples of it as you talk through. And so many points. People resisting that pendulum swing. It's so easy to go pin to pin when really in the middle is where we need to try to stay. So that's probably not the best intro, but something I want to highlight there. You talk about the difference between success and excellence.
Oh, yes. That's been a huge life thing for me. So I learned this from one of my mentors at Chick-fil-A. So huge impact working at Chick-fil-A, the caliber of folks there. I mean, I'll be honest. So before I do into the deal, let me just like reveal a little of the story. So I knew the family that owns Chick-fil-A. I went to high school with a guy named Andrew Cathy, who's the current CEO. It's just owned by the Cathy family, privately owned by that one family. So a lot of the stuff they do, they kind of keep private. They don't like to brag. Every now and then the news will make a big deal out of them. Mostly it's fake news, by the way, because they don't like publicizing stuff. So the news will grab one little thing and run wild with it. And it's massively out of context. But I kind of knew them as really cool people, but I wasn't paying attention. It's a fast food joint, right? I'm like, graduated high school. And I'm like, hey, good luck with your little restaurant company. Hope you guys make it. I'm going to go be a cool guy. Yeah. I think they're going to make it, Michael.
They'll probably be okay.
They're pulling through. So I left, became a consultant, was doing, traveling the world, doing cool stuff, and was back visiting here in the Atlanta areas where I graduated high school, where they're based. And I was visiting my family here in the area, and they're like, "Wait, you should come work for us." And honestly, the reason I'm bringing this up is even then, like they'd grown and grown and grown, and I was like, "Yeah." Told my wife, like, I don't know. They invited me to do this call, meet with one of their top leadership guys and talk about their systems. And I was like, I mean, I didn't go do all this education, masters and travel. I didn't do this so I could go work at fast food. Like, I mean, it's a fast food joint. My wife, in her wisdom's like, what's it going to hurt you? It took me about a month to reply to the email, dude. I was like dragging my feet. She's like, just don't be a jerk. Just reply, have a call. If you don't want to do it, you can always say no. That call blew my mind though, when I started to get to know their people. They're not, I mean, yeah, it's just fast food. Like the food, it's just a fast food restaurant, but the caliber of the people, I'm going to give you the unofficial Scott Wozniak story of how Chick-fil-A got successful. This is not their official version, but this is my summary. Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A, he was smart and good guy and worked hard, but honestly, not remarkably so. Just good as most other entrepreneurs. Here's what was most unique about Truett. He was such a good man, like a good-hearted, thoughtful, disciplined, excellent, caring person. He was just so good that some of the most talented people I've met, and I've traveled the world with top billionaires and CEOs and athletes, some of the smartest, cleverest, kindest people I know said, I want to help that guy. And they just decided to come work for him. And so like literally blew my mind when I just like, let me just meet the executive team. And I was like, holy cow, these are better than the international CEOs I'm running with. And these guys don't want anyone to know them. They deliberately tried to stay under the radar. Most of these guys grew up in the Chick-fil-A world. This is literally the only place they've ever worked. They've been job offers from everybody from Apple to GE have tried to poach these people. And they're like, why would I leave? I love these people. So the guy most people don't know about, but if you're in the Chick-fil-A world, I'm going to say Tim Tassopoulos, and people are going to lose their mind. He's like one of the most brilliant people I've ever met, one of the wisest people I've ever met. Tim has been the right hand man to he was Dan. So Truett's son, Dan, took over, and Tim became Dan's right hand. And so he was the president of Chick-fil-A for many years, just retired. I mean, like a month ago as of the recording of this podcast. So Tim's just finally stepped into retirement. He's like the unsung hero in the last 20 years of Chick-fil-A. So massive mentor of mine. So the lesson, before I even get to your quote, like I got on this cool tangent, listen, find the right people and be really, really good to them. If you're trying to build something, whether it's a friend group to a multi-billion-dollar enterprise like Chick-fil-A, find the best caliber people you can, both talent and character, and then just be really kind, really good to them, faithful. I mean, challenge them. Now, Chick-fil-A paid them well, but they were often offered more money by other people to say, we'll double and millions of dollars more than what you're doing. And like, you're already making 7 figures. We'll double it. Like, and they'd be like, nah, I mean, why would I leave my mentor and friend? I mean, you'd got to pay them well, but it's really not just about the money. It's this whole other package. They're like, why would I leave these? These are my people. So that is actually the key to success. That's the Chick-fil-A story. Truett was so good that great people gathered around him, and those great people built a truly remarkable company. Find the great people, and the rest, even basic products. I mean, Michael, like, let's just be real. Part of my resistance was because if you're going to pick an industry to avoid, right? You're like, what do we make jokes of people? Like, oh man, his dead end, like his life went nowhere. We're like, he's flipping burgers, right? And making fries. I mean, it's the most embarrassing lame end job. They picked the industry nobody liked and a product with no respect and built something truly remarkable. Even in the most basic category, you can do remarkable things if you have the right people. Okay, so tangent over. You actually asked about success versus excellence. I learned this from Tim Tassopoulos. Mentor, still a good friend, even though I haven't worked for him for a while and he's retired. We've got a meeting scheduled coming up. I mean, when you get great people, try to stay close and learn from them. That's my message there. So Tim taught all the new folks, all the new leadership. He would run us through a program, just a little small group discussion. He said, okay, now that you're on, I want to tell you how we operate. And I think this is powerful for all of us. He said, man, we're here and I want to challenge you to pursue excellence, not success. Pursue excellence, not success. So success is defined as my performance compared to others. I mean, how am I doing? Am I making more money than you? Am I putting in more baskets than you? Does my house look nicer than you? I mean, my performance compared to others. He said, that's success. And that's what most people are after. That's a very dangerous thing to pursue. What instead we want to pursue is excellence. Excellence is my performance compared to my potential. It's my performance compared to my own potential. What am I capable of? And man, when you pursue excellence, it saves you on both ends of the pendulum swing. So on the one end of this success trap is like, well, man, I'm doing better than everyone else. Like I should coast, right? Like I got this. Why do I need to keep working? Like I got the car, I got the house, like I'm done, baby. And you start sliding into more casual, and you see this lots of times in successful folks. They peak and then kind of life falls apart. They like nothing to chase anymore. They don't know what they're doing. And you get this kind of unhealthy, or on the other end of the swing, it's like, man, you might be doing good stuff, but my buddy Michael's doing more than me. Like I thought I was making it. And then I have a 50-foot yacht and Michael rolls up in his 100-foot yacht. Now I feel poor all over again. And I got to go, I'm never good enough. And one of the more tragic quotes, I think, in American business history, John D. Rockefeller, super, gazillionaire robber baron of the time, I don't know, 120 years ago. Someone asked him like, okay, sir, how much would be enough? I think he was at the time maybe the richest man in the world or really close to it. How much would be enough? And his answer, a little bit more. Um, like, dang, he's never going to be satisfied. Like there's no peace in that life. But you don't want to be like the lazy bum who doesn't do it. Like, how do you avoid this swing? Excellence. Like, listen, this is where Chick-fil-A's at. I mean, they're arguably the best fast food in America, in American history. I mean, people go nuts for them in a way they never have. You pick any one of dozen different category ratings, from volume per location to customer satisfaction scores to they're the most talked about brand on social media. Not most talked about restaurant, most talked about brand in any category in the United States. And it's 86% positive last time I checked, which I don't know if you've been on social media lately, but that's not the normal positive to negative
I'd
ratio.
say that's about 85% off of the normal positive to negative ratio on any topic.
I think you're sadly correct. So like they're killing it. And so you could be like, dude, we should coast, right? We won. We got this. Or on the other hand, they could be like, we're just fast food and we're not as big as Apple. And maybe we're just not doing very well. Like, no, no, no. We're always just saying, hey, what are we capable of? This is what I do. I by the way, took this to my kids. I think this is good for life. So we just a couple weeks ago got the report cards from all our kids' semesters at school. And here's the conversation we always have with them. Like, okay, what were you capable of? What do you think was really an honest, capable guess? What grade should you have gotten in this class? And there was a couple of them. One of my kids, I'll not call the particular child out, were like, yeah, you were capable of an A, and that B is not acceptable. Not because I'm angry about it, because there's another one of my kids. We talked about one of their classes, and they're like, honestly, that B took everything I had. I gave it all I got, and we got a B. We high-fived and made a big deal out of the hard work and said, well done. And the other kid, we're like, dude, that B is unacceptable, because it's not about the grade. It's what are you capable of? Excellence. What's your potential? Your performance compared to your potential. And if you gave it all you had, we're going to celebrate you. And if you didn't, we're going to challenge you. And there were some screen time consequences for that child. Not pleased.
Screen time.
Yes, we're like, well, guess what? You're going to have some more time to work on that class this semester. So again, I think it's helpful for the inner dialogue. Man, I know a lot of high performers, probably the folks listening to your podcast, the people who already want to go and are dreaming and pushing. We can be brutal on ourselves, man. And sometimes it's because we are comparing ourselves to the next guy who's taking off. And I mean, you see this all the time, right? The overnight success. And you're like, why is he winning? And what we often don't see is dude has been grinding for 10 years, building skills and capabilities and trust and systems and staff. And then he finally figures out something that hits the viral chain and he goes nuts. But we're like, why isn't it working for me? Dude, are you doing the stuff? Are you reaching your potential? And sometimes you're like, this is all the time I have. I don't have the money he has. I don't have the staff he has yet. Like I'm still starting out. Well, great. Are you doing the best you can with your current setup? Then you should lay your head down going like, hey man, I'm giving it my best shot. And that's okay. I will get there. Or maybe you're like, I'm doing great, but I'm kind of coast. Like success versus excellence, man. Do not pursue success with your life. For your company, for your family, for your own self-challenge, pursue excellence. What are you actually capable of? And then just have an honest conversation, man. There's so much health in that.
Amen. And I would love, instead of piggybacking on that, which I could, but you said it so well, and I love it. And I do love the tie into our personal life as well. I feel like everything we've talked about today is not just for your company. It's not just for your customers or your employees. It's for, I think you said it to kick this thing off. It really is for all of our important relationships. But you also have a very interesting quote in your book about good decision-making and the difference between healthy leadership and being smart. And I think that's another fascinating concept that we can drive right off of this pursuit of excellence. And I would love it if you could help us understand the difference between healthy leadership and just being the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah. A lot of companies are trying to solve their problems by getting smarter. There's tons of memes, work smarter, not harder. And there's all this, hire the rock star dudes from the Ivy League stuff. And I mean, smarts matter. I'm not at all opposed to smarts. You're a pretty smart guy. Like I just mentioned, you want to hire talented people, IQ and training and all that, the mental capacities. Yeah, sure. But I got to tell you, I'm a consultant working with a lot of companies. I rarely run across a company who doesn't have enough mental capacity to do the work. Those people don't last very long. They don't make it down the road. Usually, what's holding us back, especially at the leadership level, is the health of the team and its ability to work together. And you have it's like a kind of a half joke quote that says, "Listen, none of us is as dumb as all of us." I mean, when you get us all together, man, it's like the lowest common denominator, and we don't add our IQ together. We get the least version of all of us, and that's because most of us are not taught how to play well together in a group and truly do collaborative thinking. I mean, I'm going to poke at the American school system here just a little bit, right? But dude, we are penalized if we collaborate to come up with the right answer. That's called cheating and gets you immediately failed out of the class. And then you go into the work environment where how are we supposed to solve problems? Well, we're taught like hide my paper, scribble, looking over my shoulder. Nobody see my answer. It's just me and my stuff. And now I'm on a team of other rock stars, and this is what we still end up doing. We're like hiding our work and just trying to report out looking cool in front of our peers. And really what we need to do is put the open question test in front of everybody and group problem solve how to do this thing. We got all these brains in the room and we don't tap into them. We're all coming into our leadership meetings defensively reporting, trying to look good. The metaphor I like to use for this is the difference between a track team and a football team. So you talked a football example with tackling earlier. I played football. Heck yeah. I also ran track when I was growing up, did that for several years. And there was a team and we had fun with it and did all that stuff. But the truth is, when we got into it, I can't tell you how good my track team was. I mean, I did it for 7 years. I have no idea. I don't even know if we were a winning team, dude. Like did we win more than we lost meets? And at this point, some of your listeners are probably like, "Oh, he's just not that competitive." It's like, yeah, maybe too much. Like I'm working on being more balanced in that regard. I can make a competition out of everything. I remember driving with my kids in the car, and they're like 4 or 5 years old, and somebody passed me on the highway, and my kids are like, "Dad, how come you're letting that guy win?" And like, not are we in a race? Like, of course we're all racing. Like that's what we're doing out here, right? Like and just for context, my response was not to correct them. Like, no, we're not racing.
Downshift.
Yeah, thank you. My response was like, "Thanks for the heads up. I'm on it." Oh, he's not winning. Don't worry, I got this, son. So yeah, I'm working on that. Probably shouldn't have downshifted. But so if I'm competitive, why can't I tell you about my track team? It's because I don't know. Did you run track? Did you do anything like this, Michael? What was your?
I did not. No, I love
Okay.
being able to run 90 feet at a time in baseball or having a break in between four plays in football. So that was about as far as I really ever ran.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you why. I was actually forced to run track. I ended up having some fun doing it, but it wasn't my first choice. I'll tell you why in a minute. I ended up doing it. Here's the way track meets keep score: is everybody for individual races get points if you win. You know, more for first, less for third, right? You stack and you just add up all the points at the end, and whoever school at the meet gets the most points wins. That's fun. Here's the problem. That's not how they track who goes on to region, district, and the state meet. If you want to go to the top level and win, well, then you have to individually win. And it doesn't matter if your team wins or not. You go to the next level by yourself. You can win whether your teammates do or not. So I remember them announcing us winning. I remember at points we won, sometimes we lost. You know, we didn't always win and we didn't always lose. That's kind of where it stopped. What I can tell you is my particular record and how by the time I got to be a junior, I made it to the state meet. I ran hurdles because I wasn't quite fast enough to get there on flat ground. And so, but I learned if I get my technique down, I could beat the guys who they would slow down the hurdles and I wouldn't. And so then by the way, I would get to the state meet and get smoked by the guys who were also fast and had technique, but dang it, I could get there. Right. So, that's what a lot of leadership teams run like. Whereas football, I mean, I don't know what your coaches were like, but there was never like, you know, Michael, you won and the rest of the guys lost, or like offense won and defense. Like we won or lost together. And we might, you know, yell at one guy more than the other, but at the end of the day, like that was our number. And when we won, we went nuts. And when we lost, it didn't matter if I had good numbers that game. I was disappointed. And so the way that team pulled together and challenge. In fact, I'll give you a funny example. We did make it. We were state champions in football. I was in Florida back in the days in the 90s. And then we were state runners up. And we had a guy, I don't know if you paid much attention to this guy, but Danny Cannell was my high school
Yeah.
quarterback. He went
You
on to
got
play
a bridge named
Florida.
after him in Destin, Florida at the moment.
Come on, yeah. He played in Florida, FSU, Seminoles. Then he went on to the Giants and the Falcons, and he's an ESPN guy now. So Danny was my high school quarterback, and he in his class, I mean, we rode their coattails, baby. And the reason I know that is because the year he graduated, we went 0-8 into the final game of the season against the other team that was 0-8. We literally went for playing from best in the state to worst in the state, one season removed. It was brutal. So we were staring like ultimate shame in the face. And with 29 seconds left to go, we were down by 1 point. We kicked a field goal, went up by 2. We knew we'd won. The other team was so bad, there's no way they were going to score in 29 seconds on us. We went nuts. I mean, Michael, we cleared the bench. We made this huge dog pile on the field. My coach is like, get off the field. There's still 29 seconds. We dislocated the shoulder of one of our own players. We celebrated so hard. And I mean, it was nuts, right? It was like the team bonding, like, dude, we're in this together. We'll do anything we have to do to get each other set up and ready, and we'll figure it out. Track team, I have no idea who ran there. Now here's the thing. You might think, oh, that's because these guys were good guys and these guys were bad guys. Healthy team, you're thinking, oh, man, I must have jerks on my team. No. You might have healthy individuals who just don't know and don't have the structure or the goal. They don't have a shared number to chase. This is what's insightful for me on these examples, why I went all into this. My football team was told by our coach, you have to stay in shape, and so you've got to run track in the fall. We were a small enough school. We didn't have a lot of options. It was either that or the swim team, and nobody wanted to be on the swim team. And so everybody on the football team ran track. The same guys. In this context, we would go nuts and like dogpile each other for wins and losses. Over here, have no idea whether they won or lost. You know, I liked them. They're my buddies. High five if you win. I don't really pay attention. It's not just like, now if you have a bad actor, you have an unhealthy individual, then yeah, you should probably deal with that on your leadership team. It's going to be hard to build a healthy leadership team with a guy who's just a selfish, manipulative jerk, right? Okay. But more often what I find is healthy individuals who don't have a shared number to chase, who don't have any sort of experience collaborating to solve problems. All your leadership team meetings are these soul-sucking report outs, and everyone just reports. And that's it. And then the boss yells at somebody, and then we move on to the next meeting. It's like, where do we learn? It's not happening in our schools. Where do we learn to truly collaborate and be like, we've got all these shared minds together? What if instead of the joke quote, it's like, listen, the sum of our parts is greater than individual. Like we truly get that group creativity and challenge. And let's get really tactical. This isn't just like cool meetings. What if we shared budget? And like, dude, the company needs you guys to invest a little bit more, even though I know I have budget for it. I'll give up some of my budget, or staff. Hey, I'll assign some of my team to help you out. What if we took personal time I'm gonna help you with your project instead of my projects? Like this kind of actual, let's think about like a football team in a play. Like we'll slide the whole line and point everybody here to make a hole so the running back can get through. The 10 other players do everything they can in their power to create one hole for one guy. That's team play. That's a totally different thing than just like, hey, I'm going to run a race. You run your race. Hope you win. Good luck. But, you're on your own. I'm not doing anything to help you. Healthy leadership teams truly see themselves sharing the whole process, not like, it's on you, buddy. And this is so the book, when the book, we talk about this customer experience engine, this set of systems, right? Starts with customer insight. Do you even know them? You start operational excellence. That's where it comes scorekeeping and keeping the basics. Then you get to this personal high touch stuff and these cool, memorable story moments and get people talking about you. What we learned, like the macro lesson at the end of all this stuff, is you can't just pick one little cool tactic and create raving fans. You got to run the whole play. It's the stack of them together and they make a magical thing. No one piece of it's that hard. This will work. There's tactics. It's when you put them all together that it feels like magic. And the reason the healthy leadership team on the diagram we draw, it's a belt running behind all the gears. It's not a separate thing off to the side itself that you do. It's the thing that loops behind everything and keeps it synced and running and improving. And it's just loop, loop, loop. Hey, let's try again. Get better again. Try it again. Try it again. And that group of thinkers who are sharing resources, sharing a goal, challenging each other, like, come on, dude, you got this. You're better than that. Helping each other when things get tough. Like, dude, when you get that, man, this is back to the truth, Kathy, like get great people around you, and learn how to actually collaborate. Even if it's just 2 or 3 of you, dude, you will win in the long run. I would take that group who starts way behind over the group with the coolest tech, the most money, the fanciest pedigrees, but they don't know how to work and play together. They're going to just inch and grind their way along. And this group, the rate of learning will just go phenomenal. They'll blow past you. And I mean, this is me blowing off Chick-fil-A, right? Like, yeah, good luck. You're just a little mall restaurant. Like they're mostly mall restaurants. I mean, at the time when I met, they cool. It's a good chicken sandwich. They didn't have most of the stuff people think of. The cow, eat more chicken stuff. They didn't have cows. There were no drive-throughs. People loved their drive-throughs, right? They didn't have any drive-throughs to go through because they were all mall restaurants. The menu was like a quarter of its size. Your favorite product, except for the sandwich, probably wasn't. They didn't even have waffle fries. When I started, they were just trying out this new crazy waffle fry thing. But what they had was a group of people who were learning and pulling together and pursuing excellence and challenging each other. And dude, in the long run, that beats the coolest tech in the world. In the long run, that's the most powerful part of the engine.
And you hear all the time that the people and the leadership and the culture and the things that make the difference. And that's a wonderful way to say it. And for me, one of the things I really liked when I read the book, it's more about you than the technique for the people that are listening, is you said in the book how the belt wasn't originally part of the engine diagram, but the more you did it, the more you realized how important it was and it needed its own illustration, that it's not just running behind the scenes. So for the people that are listening, that's just one example about how tested and tried this whole entire system is and the importance of using the system. I know you're tight for time, and we spent a lot of this conversation really talking about kind of general principles for communication and relationships and excellence in these things, which I love. And if I could steal the rest of your morning, we'd continue the conversation. But because so much of what you did in the book really is focused on creating these Raven fans and building that legendary brand awareness, with the couple of minutes that we have left, there's one other quote in your book I'll ask you about. And people have to read the book to get the analogy. I know we're short on time. How do you make people feel like they're the Jedi?
Oh, yes. So the mistake most of us make is we try to get people to talk about us by making it look like we're awesome. And as a Star Wars nerd, I use a little example. I keep wanting to be Luke Skywalker. No, you really want your customers to love you like crazy and talk about you like crazy, then you got to make them feel like they're the hero of the story. They get to be Luke. Hang on. Young Luke, not depressed deadbeat dad Luke. We could correct that character, man. Okay, so they get to be young Luke, they get to be Rey, and you make them feel awesome. Because see, the question our customers are asking is, how do I feel about myself when I'm with you? I mean, what is the it's subconscious, right? But what is it that I walk away thinking like, man, I must be great at this. Man, I'm really proud of myself for this. That's the magic last piece of the engine that just kicks this over the edge. And this is creating these story-worthy experiences, what we call a memorable moment that pops. And there are little ways to do this. If you've done operational excellence and some of this other stuff in your business, you don't have to spend a ton of money on this. Just a little bit, once or twice a year pops, and people go nuts and talk about you and do all this stuff. But this is the key. It's not about celebrating yourself. It's celebrating your customers. Now, this is where Star Wars kicks in. And we're in the story. If we're not Luke, we get to be Yoda. We're the wise mentor. We're the guide that helps them say, hey, we're here to help you realize your potential and show how awesome you are. And we're glad we could help you do that. That's setup. That's like the ultimate business storytelling buzz that creates viral creation of customers, bringing you customers, and that's how you get in this exponential growth mode, is you celebrate your customer and then you're Yoda helping them realize you really are a Jedi. So it's not It's not magic. You just have to know who they are, what they care about. This is why customer insights, one of the critical, like it's the fuel that drives the engine here in my diagram. Um, but yeah, and this is as you mentioned, this is not a new idea. This is what we've been doing. It's what Chick-fil-A does. It's a lot of great brands do, and they have their own versions of it. We talk about it, but the engine that we talk about, this customer experience engine in the book, I've been doing it for 20 years. I've been using the engine diagram to train companies and help them build their tools for 12 years or something like that, maybe 14 years now. And you're right, the first couple of years, we didn't have the belt, and we said, oh, hey, we need to, it worked, it didn't work, why? And so this isn't a new theory. This is what I've spent the last 20 plus years actually doing. And we're finally, I mean, we've got a whole consulting team. We train on this. We've got coaches who do this. We're actually launching a new online program because there's honestly more people than I can physically get to. So that's the new launch this year, is creating online cohorts of people. And we've got programs and tools so they can take and run with their own. If they don't want to, bring me in, they don't have to. And I can still have something of a work-life balance. And so we're building all this stuff for companies. Maybe you want to get an elite team to help you build your engine and put all these systems in place, including, I got to tell you, this is kind of breaking news. We've launched a new AI division. AI has gone in 2023. AI tipped over. We're recording this early 24. And it went from being a cool toy, the future potential, to becoming one of the more powerful business tools that you can use today. And so we have been working on AI stuff with some of our clients for 7-8 years now, implementing lots of things. And it just kicked critical mass. And we're like, listen, pretty much every one of our clients now has an AI project going on. And so we're saying to everybody, you've got to get involved in AI. So there's a whole new suite. I got a new team. I actually brought in a world-class couple of rock star AI guys from Google and Amazon. And, these guys are ballers. Been working with the biggest and best in the world and saying, okay, how do we do this? So this is what we do. We build this, and this book and the stuff we have on this is just the report on, hey, here's what they did. It's not magic. It's not luck. It's an engine. And I'll say this to anyone listening. You can do this. It's not reserved for the fancy stuff like, Apple technology. Cool for them. But like fast food joints do it. Construction companies work with us, legal firms, recruiting and hiring process. I mean, some of the nuts and bolts of our society, this works. And you may not make you famous because let's say you're commercial construction, only your clients will know. Maybe no one else will know, but your clients will know. Everyone can do this. It's not something that's specially challenging. You just have to stack the engine pieces in the right order, and you can have raving fans.
No doubt. And the way you speak about it and the way you write about it makes it completely accessible for people to begin to morph into their own, into their own world, their own business. Hopefully another time we can talk a little bit more about some of the elevated language techniques and trust concepts and things that you have. I know you got to run today. So for people that have really enjoyed this conversation and they want to learn more about you and your team, where do they go to find you, your team, and continue to see how they might be able to engage with you if they want?
Thanks, brother. Yeah, scottwozniak.com is the best site to probably go to. That's SCOTTWOZNIAK.com. So at scottwozniak.com, you can get my personal newsletter. You'll also see a description and link to my company site, Swoz Consulting. It's SWOZ Consulting. And so, yeah, you can check all the stuff I'm out up there. I've got a newsletter you can sign up for, weekly thoughts on how to build a great life. And so if anyone's interested in that stuff, check me out at scottwozniak.com, and I'd love to keep hanging out. Thanks, Michael. This was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate the time in the conversation, all the stories and insights. Great luck, on the initiatives and everything. You do have a great look, by the way.
Well, you and I have the same barber, clearly.
But good luck on all the initiatives, everything that you're rolling out, and I look forward to seeing you out there on the road again soon.
Thanks, brother.
Bye. Scott, thank you for such a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you sharing all of those ideas, all of those examples, all of those stories. Thank you so very much. And of course, thank you to everybody who took the time to listen and join us today. So many things to consider, not the least of which is the importance of shifting our default mode. I love the idea of pursuing excellence as opposed to pursuing success. It's a very interesting concept to stop and think when we're done laughing about the importance of all of us, wait, oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me get this right. None of us is as dumb as all of us. I like that for consideration. And then perhaps most importantly at the end, taking the time to consider how do we make people feel when they are with us, whether it is our family, our teammates, our employees, our customers, and beyond. All great thoughts for consideration. And Scott, thank you very much. Again, thank you for everybody for being here. And before we go, we're going to thank our sponsors one more time on the way out the door. Head over to humantell.com to learn all there is to learn about how to accurately understand in real time what people are likely thinking and feeling by recognizing shifting emotions through their facial expressions and nonverbal communication. I highly recommend it. Head over to humantell.com and enter the code Inquasive25 for 25% off of all of their online training. Also, head over to certifiedyinterviewer.com for the International Association of Interviewers. That's where you can learn everything that you need to know about the requirements for joining the association, member benefits at the individual and group level. You can peruse all of their online resources and training that's available. You can learn about their in-person, local, regional, national events that they have going on. It's also where you can learn about the Certified Forensic Interviewer designation. Do you qualify? Is it worth your investment in time at the moment? What will it do for your career currently and down the road? All of that and more at certifiedyinterviewer.com. And Inquasive, please head over to inquasive.com where you can learn more about the programs our clients ask us to facilitate to teach their leaders at all levels of the organization how to encourage people to share sensitive information under vulnerable circumstances in the face of consequences by applying strategic and ethical observation and persuasion techniques. All of that and more over at inquasive.com. Thank you all so much for continuing to show up week after week and listening to these conversations. Please subscribe to the show, like the show, share the show, leave your feedback. What do you like? What would you like to see or hear more of? What would you like to see less of? Who would you like to have on the show? We would love to hear your feedback. We appreciate you spreading the word. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing, and beyond. Stay safe, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.